Welcome to Calendar and Checklist. Learning objectives. Maintaining a gardening calendar helps growers plan their cannabis growth cycle. Keeping a checklist adds necessary quality checks during the average 3-month life cycle of a cannabis plant. We will cover the significant milestones of plant development during each stage of life. Learning objectives, creating and managing a cannabis growth calendar. Learn best practices for keeping a healthy cannabis garden. Overview. Calendars help growers know exactly what to do, when to prepare, and when to do it. In this course, we will be looking at the calendar and the checklists for growing cannabis from the daily checklists and then the monthly calendar to understand its life cycle, which is 3 months on average. Daily routines. A checklist adds necessary daily routines to the growing processes. This calendar outlines the life cycle of cannabis from seed until harvest. We will highlight major points to consider during each stage of the cannabis's life. The daily checklist consists of a few things that must be done every day and each week to ensure a successful cannabis garden. Savvy growers read and consider every point on the calendar daily, so they will track all these aspects and use a checklist to track when they are finished with their daily maintenance. If growing indoors, you should spend an average of at least 10 minutes per lamp each day on maintenance. If you are using CO2 enrichment or hydroponics, allow 20 minutes per day to do maintenance on those systems to ensure they are working properly. In the beginning, large chunks of time will be required to set up the garden for both indoors and outdoors, and at the end of the cannabis's life cycle when you are harvesting. These times are not included in the 10 to 20 minute daily schedule. Daily checklist. Your daily tasks checklist. Air ventilation, air circulation, water pump, water heater, humidifier, dehumidifier, filters and deodorizers, humidity between 40 to 50%, temperature, daytime 60 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 to 23 degrees Celsius, and the evening 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. Soil moisture, dry pockets, water as needed, check soil surface, regular fertilization schedule, check pH, check ppm, water temperature, check tank water level, rotate or turn plants, check for spider mites under leaves, check for fungi, nutrient deficiencies, check for burnt or browning leaves, review the light system for excessive heat at plug-in connections, timers, ballasts, and near the ceiling. Check for water leaks. Check CO2 systems, burners, timers, gauges, tank levels, and room levels. Look at growing system pumps and timers to make sure they are flooding, draining, spraying, and cycling properly. Clean up, clean up, clean up. Prevent pest issues by having a clean working and growing environment. Check walls, ceilings, windows, and doors for mold and mildew. Replace any bulbs needed for lamps. Move lamp up 12 to 36 inches, 300 to 900 millimeters above plants as needed. If your plants have started to grow into the light, the tops of the plants will dry or burn from excessive heat. Example calendar. For our example, the calendar starts at the beginning of January and is only 3 months long. However, this calendar schedule can be applied starting at any time of the year, as this is being used in a controlled indoor environment. 2 weeks for clones to root, 2 more weeks of vegetative growth, and then finally 8 weeks of flowering until your growth is ready for harvest. If you are gardening indoors with CO2 enrichment or hydroponically, the calendar could move up about 1 week, depending on how fast the indoor garden grows. Remember, light intensity substantially diminishes over 4 feet away from the bulb and with the age of a bulb, so be sure to have the heights set properly and the bulbs replaced when needed. We will use a 3-month growing calendar as a working example. We will start on January 1st with the vegetative growth stage, then complete at the end of March with the final step being the harvest. Week 1. Month 1, Week 1, beginning of January. Take clones and root clones. These root in 1 to 4 weeks. Sow seeds. Make sure they are warm for speedy germination. Mix dolomite lime into the soil before planting if using soil. Prepare growing environment and set up equipment. Set timer for 18-hour days and 6-hour nights. Week 3. Month 1, Week 3, middle of January. Make sure the vegetative room is perfect before bringing in the clones. Move in rooted clones or sprouted seedlings. Place 24 to 36 inches or 0.60 to 0.90 meters under HID lamp. If growing in soil, keep soil surface moist. Fertilize seedlings and clones. Use an all-purpose fertilizer. Start regular fertilization schedule. Special care should be given to soil. Be aware that moisture, damping off, and dry soil pockets could stunt plants. If using hydroponic or aeroponic systems, ensure flood, drain, and spray systems are working properly. Ensure water flood levels are high enough to reach plant roots, but not the top of growing medium surface. Keep water 1 inch or 25 millimeters below top surface. Keep water tanks filled. Check water temperature levels. Fertilize seedlings and clones. Use an all-purpose fertilizer. Start regular fertilization schedule. Week 5. Second month, Week 5, beginning of February. Vegetative plants should be 6 to 12 inches or 150 to 300 millimeters tall with broad, firm green leaves. Continue regular supplemental and fertilization program. Move each HID lamp 12 to 36 inches or 0.9 meters above the tops of the clones. Thin and transplant seedlings into larger pots. Water plants as needed. Week 7. Second month, Week 7, middle of February. Move vegetative clones into 12-hour flowering room. Change to a super bloom fertilizer mixture. Plants should be at least 12 to 24 inches or 300 to 600 millimeters tall. No leaves should be yellowing. If they are, fine-tune the daily checklist. Overwatering occurs more frequently. Check the soil with a moisture meter. Hydroponic flood and drain timers may need to be adjusted to accommodate plant growth. Increased air circulation and ventilation are essential. Mist the garden at night with water to wash leaves. Iron, magnesium, and nitrogen deficiencies may start showing at this point. Supplemental trace element mix should be applied. Week 9. Third month, Week 9, beginning of March. The plants are 2 months old and around 18 to 36 inches or 450 to 900 millimeters tall. Females should don white hair-like pistils. Male pollen sacs develop. Remove the males from the room. If you want to breed, you can save them to pollinate females, though this should be done in a separate and sealed space away from the female plants. Take clones for the next crop. If there are any yellow leaves or leaves that are drying, fine-tune that daily checklist. Air circulation, ventilation, and relative humidity are very important now. Leach soil to wash away any excess fertilizer salts that may be residing in your containers. Seedlings only 2 months old should be given another month of growth before flowering is induced. You may now clone for sex. Soil will dry out rapidly now. Watch for dry soil pockets. Hydroponic and aeroponic growing systems will need water refilled more often now. Bend and tie plants over to give garden an even profile. Prune plants that are shadowing over other plants. Heavily planted rooms should now be ready for adding additional lamps. Adding another lamp will help to space plants out and to increase harvest yields. This is the time of peak THC production. During the next 1 to 4 weeks, the tops will double in size and potency. Lower leaves may yellow. If many leaves are yellowing, fine-tune the checklist. After fine-tuning the checklist, remove yellowing leaves only if they are clearly going to die. Gardens still might be using quite a bit of water. Make sure to check on it daily if needed. This is the last chance for spraying and fertilizing if you plan to harvest within 2 weeks. If there are any nutrients, fungi, or insect disorders, this is the last chance you will have to use sprays to combat them. Week 11, Month 3, Week 11, middle of March. Plant tops elongate, making the garden's profile about 6 to 12 inches or 150 to 300 millimeters taller than 2 weeks ago. Continue fertilizing with a high bloom fertilizer. Older leaves may start to drop a little faster due to decreased nitrogen in the super bloom fertilizer, or if only an HP sodium lamp is used. Watch the room's humidity levels carefully during this time. Inspect bud for mold. Check all factors listed in the checklist. Buds should be oozing with resin by now. Some shade leaf yellowing is normal. Indica and early maturing buds are nearly ripe now. Harvest if ready. No insecticides. Do not use any fungicides. Stop using fertilizer. Start flushing plants with water only. This will help to remove any fertilizer tastes. Check for bud blight or bud mold. Week 12. Third month, Week 12, end of March. The only change will be the growth of more calyxes on the flower buds. Continue to water as needed. Bud mold could become a problem. Constant scrutiny is a must. It shows up overnight, so watch out. Everything should be ready to harvest now. If it is not, consider growing an earlier maturing strain of cannabis. Harvest now or within a couple of weeks if growing a strain that takes longer. If your strain is one that takes longer to grow, you may need to add more fertilizer and disregard the water flush until a later point in time. THC content is on its way downhill when resin glands turn amber. Let seed crops go until the seeds are big and healthy before harvesting. Harvest and clean up. Move in rooted clones for your next crop. Thank you for viewing Calendar and Checklist.